2 years in prison for roughing up a suspected drug smuggler in a lawless part of the Southwest. Border Patrol agent Jesus Chito Diaz has been behind bars for 8 months now, isolated from his family and from the rest of the prison population, for that matter, held in solitary confinement. Diaz has yet to meet his new baby girl, all because he allegedly assaulted a Mexican teenager who was sneaking into the United States with 75 pounds of marijuana on his back. Diaz is Agent Diaz's wife. She herself is a Border Patrol agent as well. Deanna, thank you so much for being here with us. We appreciate it. This case is now catching national attention because while your husband was convicted of this act and no one's applauding this act, there is a question about, in fact, whether it occurred and whether the punishment fits the crime, 2 years in prison for what happened here. Do you believe the conclusion of the court, which was that your husband assaulted this teenager?
No, I don't, Megan. Thank you, first of all, for having me here. And no, I do not agree with the court.
Why not? Because I want to tell our viewers, and this is from the prosecutor's opening statement, which is not evidence. It's just what the prosecutor believes the evidence is going to show. But he claims that your husband swept the feet from the kid after he already had him in custody, brought him face down, chest down, still handcuffed, struck him with his knee and his foot, then ratcheted his handcuffs away from his body to 90 degrees behind his back while still handcuffed, that the suspect was screaming, grimacing, convulsing from the pain, and saying he didn't know where the marijuana was. And that is what the prosecutor says your husband deserves to be in jail for.
Given the individual's testimony, he did not claim any of that. He had the opportunity to tell his story, and when he was asked, he said that nobody kicked him, and the only thing that happened was the lifting of the cuffs.
The victim said that?
Yes.
So how does the court come to a conclusion that your husband's guilty, I guess it was of assault, and deserving of a 2-year prison sentence?
I don't know how they came to that conclusion, but given the individual's testimony, he never said that he was kicked. It was just the lifting of the cuffs, and I don't know how they based their decision.
And this has gotten to the point now where Congressman Duncan Hunter has written a letter demanding to know why a 2-year prison term is appropriate. This is written to Eric Holder, the Attorney General, and going through the evidence, saying that even the Homeland Security's Office of the Inspector General and ICE cleared Agent Diaz of any wrongdoing, and yet he's sitting in a prison cell in solitary confinement for 2 years. Describe your family's reaction when that guilty verdict came down and the sentence was handed down.
We were very astonished. We actually thought that he was going to get cleared because there was no way they could find him guilty when it's a common procedure to lift handcuffs when somebody is being uncooperative. His family was very set back. His kids don't know where he's at, so for them life is just continued. It's been difficult. It's been very difficult, but it hasn't been impossible. I have great friends, family to keep me going. But for him, it was very, very emotional. He didn't get to say goodbye. They just took him from the courtroom straight to the jail.
I know that Agent Diaz has 6 other children at home, so it's not just your new baby. He's never seen her, but you have other children from whom he's been separated. And you know, my question to you as a fellow Border Patrol agent is, do you believe this kind of sentence, and I know it could have been harder, could have been harsher, but do you believe this sentence, harsh as it is, has a chilling effect on law enforcement in terms of their legitimate duties?
I believe it does, because every officer uses handcuffs. Every officer is taught the same techniques. So now there's case law where it can be used against them. It can be used against a local officer, even the prison guards.
Describe what it's like. I mean, for most of us who sit, you know, in a studio in my case or in an office in many people's cases, describe what it's like when you're actually working the border, making arrests of somebody who is clearly a drug smuggler. You know, what goes through an officer's mind and what kind of emotions you're feeling in those instances.
I think the main thing is your adrenaline. You're driven by adrenaline and training. You always go back to your training. So everything is based on your training. Whatever you're trained to do, that's what you're going to do in the field. Your adrenaline is pumping, and you want to keep yourself safe as well as your fellow officers.
Now, I understand that the agent who was closest to your husband in the course of this arrest that he was making said that he didn't do this and that these claims were being fabricated?
Yes, there was an agent there that stated that he didn't see anything wrong with what my husband had done.
But apparently there was a training agent, a trainee, who gave testimony that was damaging to your husband. Did that wind up happening? And do you believe that person was responsible, essentially, for your husband's conviction?
There was an individual, I don't remember if he was a trainee at the time still, but he was fairly new, and he did state that my husband was using extreme force on the individual, and I believe his testimony was damaging for my husband, and then it just resulted that he even testified he lied to the grand jury.
The trainee testified that he lied to the grand jury?
Yes, he stated during the first trial that he lied to the grand jury.
About what?
About what he had seen that night.
Why did he lie to the grand jury, and then why did he reverse himself?
He said he lied because he was nervous.
And did he tell the grand jury something that was incriminating against your husband, only to reverse himself on that later?
We don't know what he told the grand jury. That's sealed, but whatever it was that he told the grand jury, they used to come back as a true bill. So that was used to indict my husband.
Wow. There are a lot of people involved in this case now wondering whether justice was in fact served. What's the earliest your husband could be released?
He could be released to a halfway house anywhere between 6 to 8 months.
I'm sure it's tough on your family. There are a lot of eyes watching this case now, including, as I point out, members of Congress. We will see how it winds up. Deanna, all the best. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Well, a cruise ship docks in Boston this morning with two